Hebrews 9 verse 27. He says, and as it is appointed unto men once to die, but after this, the judgment. The general understanding people have about this is that everybody will die one day. Everybody has an appointment with death. One day, everybody will die. So he was telling you the state of every man would end in what? Death. There are two states of man now. It's either of death or it's of what? Life. Now he says everybody has an appointment with death. So he says in the end or at the appointed time, man is going to express what? Death. You see, but when he said this, he wasn't referring to one day dying. If you study the whole passage in context, when you study from verse 1, you would realize that it was talking about the ministry of Jesus. You will see Christ, and then the symbols about the bulls, the sacrifices for the remission of sins. You realize that when he spoke about man or men there, he was not talking about the human race. He was not talking about man, individuals like man as you know, the people you know moving around. Nothing there was said about man in the generic sense of what we know man to be as human. Everything there you check, it has to do with Christ. Christ. So when he got to the 27, then he said, it is appointed for men to die once, and after this judgment. So what was he talking about here? He wasn't talking about man in the general sense. He was talking about Christ, the son of who? David. He says, at the appointed time, God did what? At the appointed time, that same word is used here again. God sent his son to come and do what? Die. It is appointed unto men to die what? God sent his only son to come and do what? So he wasn't talking about one day everybody will die. The same word appointed is used here because he was referring to the one whom God sent to come and die once. He says then after that judgment. So he says Christ came, and because it was a perfect sacrifice. You see, in the Old Testament they had to keep killing over and over and over and over. But that's what makes Jesus' ministry when he came here on earth as a Messiah different. Because the death had to be what? Once. Not over and over and over and over. It had to be once. So he died once. Then he says after that judgment, the matter was concluded. After he died, the matter was what? Concluded. Because judgment has got to do with what? Conclusion of a matter. After Jesus died, there was judgment. God made a declaration after Jesus died. He made a declaration about the state of man now. See, I said when man disobeyed, man introduced a new state. There was judgment. Because God had already said it. Now he says the day you eat of this fruit, you will what? Die. So there was judgment. Man ate it and then he did what? He died. Then God made another statement that he was going to send, for God so loved the world, that he sent his only begotten son, that whosoever believes in him would not what? But have what? That was also judgment. So judgment had been made the first time and death had come. You see, so he said, for God so loved the world that he sent whosoever believes in him. He had also passed judgment, though it had not yet happened. So the man came, he died, and then there was judgment. There was a new law. Now it was the law of life. So I said when he said all this, he was talking about Christ as the model of man. Do you know that people are raised from the dead? You know that? If that is true, then this is faulty. If he was talking about that kind of death, then this is faulty. Because some people have, at least there are people who have died twice. The guy who touched Elisha's body and came back to life, he died twice. It wasn't once, he died twice. So if that is what he meant, then it's faulty, because there are people who died more than once. So that was not what he was talking about. He was talking about Christ and his ministry, his appointment with death. He says it is appointed unto men, because what? He stood in for all men. That's why he used that expression, men. He stood in for all men. So he's saying for all men, Christ has come. Glory. Christ has come for all men to die once. We can't die. You understand? So you understand why I come from when I use this statement. We can't die because we've had our appointment with death, and it's only once. That's the legality. You can't function outside that. Lawfully, you are supposed to die once. So somebody will say, why did Jesus have to die again if death has to be once? No, if man has to die once, then how come Jesus had to? Then it means twice, right? No, Jesus didn't come to die again. He came to take the place of man in death, because somebody has to die. God said the soul that sins will what? So somebody should stay dead because there has been sin. He says the day you eat of this fruit, you will what? He didn't say you will die and then after some time. It was a legal statement. So it means for eternity, there should be a man who has to stay dead because of what? Sin. So when Jesus came, he didn't come to die again. He came to take the place of man in death. That's why he had to be a man. But also, when a man obeys God, there should also be a man who is always alive unto God. That's why there are two kinds of men now. One has to be eternally dead. That's why I told you, it's not the guy who died who has been refurbished. He's still dead. The first man is still dead. So it's not a continuation. It should tell you the new creature is real. Because there also has to be a man who has to be alive because the man obeyed. So God was practically telling man that as long as you've not eaten this food, you've not disobeyed, it means you have nothing to do with death. And that's what Jesus did. He obeyed. So he's alive forevermore. Here we are talking about models. I told you, the state of one man is what? Death. And the state of the other man, the other species of man is also what? Life. That's all. So it means if you are of the second kind of man, there should be a man that is always life. That is who you are. We don't die.